Hi, everyone. The focus of this week's lesson is on how to develop your lighting ideas. Your textbook gives you a pretty good overview of the lighting design process, and it is a circular process. Each project kind of feeds into the next, starting with project planning, through programming and schematic design, into design development, contract documentation, or maybe construction documentation, you might hear it called that. Contract administration, during which the project is actually being built. And finally, the phase that kind of feeds back into your next work is evaluation. You want to take a look back at what you did. Was it successful? And learn for the next project. But here in this week, we're going to focus right in on the schematic design piece of that. Your textbook covers how you're supposed to take the data from your programming phase and use it to inform your design and move forward into the design development. But what it doesn't do is give you any specific lighting design tools to help you do that. So I'm going to assume you are pretty familiar with the design process in general, all right? And we're going to focus in on specifically how to develop your lighting ideas. And so we're very specific here in this course on the lighting design process. So one of the first things that you want to do is identify the reasons that we add light to a space, to a specific space that we're designing for. You'll want to consider how much of that space, how much of the experience of that space can be changed or altered or affected by the light and the lighting design. One thing you really want to stay away from is to think of the lighting as a one-step process. Okay, you did all your beautiful interior design. Now let's draw the lights and be done. All right. And one more tip here, you want to give yourself numerous opportunities. Try it, come back again to come up with good ideas. All right, this is, as all design processes, it's an iterative process. So I'm taking this section of our content from a book called The Architecture of Light. And one of the really good pieces of advice that come from this text is to avoid designing a complete project and then lighting it up at the end. All right, we want to incorporate lighting design throughout the process. All right, so those were some good tips, but how do we start? How do we start our lighting design process? How do we work on and develop these ideas? Well, the very first thing you want to do is visualize light. And once you have those design ideas, you need to communicate your design ideas. Okay. And you only after you've done all of that, do you want to work on the ways to implement or your design ideas. And by that I mean that's when you start choosing light fixtures and designing the actual ways to produce the light effects that you want. So today we're going to cover two different tools to help you do this. And the first one is a visualization tool, and we're going to call it Build Light from Darkness. The second one is a communication tool. Once you have your ideas, how do you express them in a very schematic and sketchy way? And that's called a light map. Let's start with this visualization tool, Build Light from Darkness. One way to start developing your lighting ideas is to literally build the light starting from darkness. A space or a room visualized in total darkness, total blackness, is like a blank canvas for your lighting design. All right. First, turn out the lights in your mind's eye, all right? And then visualize the environment in that room as a collection of surfaces, vertical surfaces, horizontal surfaces, all right, angled surfaces. And then you can literally paint light onto these specific surfaces. And you want to kind of think of them one surface at a time. The next level of analysis, or the next step in this process, is to visualize the materials that make up each of these surfaces. Are they smooth? Are they rough? Are they reflective? Are they light or dark? And then you want to match the light texture, color, intensity that you are painting onto these surfaces to the specific materials that you are building with. Let's take a look at an example, because so far we've been very, very theoretical. So step one, you want to see your room in darkness. All right, turn out the lights, maybe shut your eyes. Imagine completely black room. Next, kind of in your mind's eye, walk around this room and identify the applications of light that are needed in this space. What tasks need light, what needs to be accented, and any local visual effects. Here's an example of your screen. It's a simple room with a couple of objects in it. So we are imagining it in darkness, and then we have picked out some specific areas that need light application. All right, so you have taken a look at your room in complete darkness, and you have identified the program of your lighting design, which items need task lighting or accent lighting. And now step two is to light it up, light some specific surfaces in your room. You're going to imagine you can paint light onto the surfaces with a brush, with a spray can. All right, imagine this. Those few specific pieces of light that you are painting on right now are going to draw attention, draw your mind's eye, and create a perceived brightness in the whole room. Every piece of applied light are going to reflect within the room and contribute to the overall ambiance of the room. So once you've done your light painting, what you really need to do is step back for a second and take a look and assess what you have already. Is this enough lighting? Do you need more? Do you need less? All right. You want to take a step back and look at it as a whole before moving on to step three. All right, step three, last step of our building light from darkness tool is to augment the overall feeling of brightness in the room. And this could be comparable to the ambient light layer. All right, if the total light in the room is too dim, we're going to augment that brightness. So you'll apply light to the vertical surfaces and reflective surfaces and increase the perceived brightness of the whole room. While we're on this subject, a couple of last thoughts here. This method of lighting design is a study in contrast and placement of light rather than the application of even lighting levels throughout a space. All right. And therefore, it's very important to know that a few well placed pieces of light or painting of light can define the space and make it feel bright. A small a small quantity of light in the right place is much more effective than any quantity of light in the wrong place. Let's take another look at a different example of this particular tool. So here we have an example of a corridor. We've got a series of columns open to a courtyard on the left and a building on the right. All right. And starting from the left-hand side, you can see that we have taken this corridor down to its basics, really imagining it in black and white. And go ahead and you can close your eyes and imagine this corridor in darkness. All right. Then in the designer's mind's eye, all right, they took out their yellow spray can and really highlighted where they wanted the light to fall. All right, and you can pull out your yellow marker, your highlighter, your yellow colored pencil, and you can do the same. That's here in the middle. So you see that the designer has decided to highlight the rhythm of those columns and also to really spread light over the arched ceiling of this walkway. All right, and finally on the right-hand side, you can see the real space and how this was accomplished and the end product of this design process. Within the schematic design process and within the design process in general, you're going to want to generate lighting ideas and develop them. In this video, we just gave you one tool to help you get started, the Build Light from Darkness tool. Thanks, everyone.